hopefully, through me from God. And that's the amazing thing about God, is that God can work through someone like me. All I gotta do is just be humble and object, and that's the way God can work through all of us. And that's the amazing thing. So we must never forget that our value comes from God, not from things. Okay, that's the sermon. Thank you very much. Please join me in prayer. So the law of contentment is a fundamental law in financial health. Here are a couple of verses from the Bible. Proverbs, it's easy to be content, but envy will eat you up. So in this case, it's not so important to worry about what you're eating, but what is eating you. And the other one is, it is better to be satisfied with what you have than to be always wanting something else. So what are the effects of always wanting more? So first thing is that we are tired all the time. We're constantly working and trying to get ahead, and the problem with that is that even if you win the rat race, you're still a rat. Think about that. Working. You know, sometimes I look at my life and I think all I do now is work and sleep and eat. And then I kind of land on Saturday and I'm like all crumpled up in a big heap, and I'm like, okay. And then I'm still working, because being a business owner means that even when you're not working, you're still working. Because it's a ball and chain. You're still, you know, working to get ready for work, or you're working to tidy up the results of work, and it's just never ending. So more fatigue is one result of always wanting more. There's a story from Leo Tolstoy, a famous Russian author. He tells the story of a peasant who was offered by his landowner master that he would give him all the land he could walk around in one day. So this peasant goes, oh, great. So instead of walking around this large area, I mean, imagine how far you can walk in one day. He sets off at a sprint, and he's just sprinting around, you know. I don't know how far he went, but this guy died of exhaustion. That's the story. So, it's pretty depressing. But I guess the story is about greed, or mixing up need with greed. Thinking that you need something, but actually you don't really need it. It's just something that is triggered inside of us. But where does this come from? Where does this come from? Fundamentally, in our church, we look at the cause of our discontent, and we trace it all the way back to the fall of man. And at the time of the fall, when human beings fell away from God's love, we acquired 4 different problems, and these are called fallen natures. And one of the fundamental problems was we stopped seeing things from God's viewpoint. We stopped seeing each other from God's viewpoint. We ceased to recognize each other as our brother and sister. We ceased to recognize each other as a son and a daughter of God. And in today's world, you see that even with religions competing against each other. You know, Islam versus Christianity. You know, Judaism versus Christianity, Christianity versus Judaism versus Islam versus Buddhism. Which one's better? You know, which one's mightier? Which one's truer? You know, let's, you know, kill all the other ones. Let's behead them because they're not in our religion, and all this kind of nonsense. This is a fundamental result of not seeing each other, not seeing the world from God's viewpoint. So, being disconnected from God's love as well is a fundamental result of the fall. Originally, a human being is designed to have a spirit and a body. And the spirit is supposed to be plugged in to God's love. And we learn that through our parents when we're young, and we mature and we become our own self-generating dynamo by being connected to God directly as we become adult human beings. So this lack of vertical relationship with our Creator makes our spirit weak. And without a strong spirit to guide our way, to allow us to breathe the air of love which our spirit craves and wants, we fall into the trap of being guided by our physical desires. So our body, in other words, becomes stronger than our mind. And every single one of us, we have bodies, and we want nice things for our bodies. We want to wear nice clothes, we want to drive in nice cars, we want to live in nice houses. We want a lot of nice things. We want to go on nice vacations to nice places. These are physical things that we crave and want. And those are things that are good. And they're right. But they're kind of out of sync with our spiritual desires. So what I'm going to talk about today is how is it possible that we can be content? And it's very important for us to be content, because without that fundamental contentment inside ourselves, we become vulnerable to all kinds of problems in the world. So more fatigue, the rat race. Another problem is that there's more expense involved. That's another effect of wanting more. In the Bible it says, the more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. It's true. You know, think about it. You have a big house, now what? Now you have to have someone help you clean it up. You have to hire somebody to mow your lawn. You have to, pay more money on your insurance. You have a problem with your roof. Well, guess what? It's not a $200 problem now. It's a $2,000 problem now, etc., etc. So, what is the advantage of wealth? Except perhaps to watch it run through your fingers. Oh yeah, I want to be wealthy. Why? Because I want to watch it run through my fingers. I just like making money and seeing it go away from me. Well, how about just wanting less? So it always costs more to have more. There's a famous saying, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. The other part of that saying is, so is the water bill. So think about it. In our society today, we are so driven by our physical desires of wanting more, having more, getting more. Of course it never brings happiness, but now we've got all this stuff. So what do? Well, either we have to get a bigger house, okay, or we can no longer park inside our garages, or we have to now rent places to store all this stuff that we don't actually need, but we can't get over the fact that we don't need it. So we just, okay, I'll buy this storage center and put all my stuff in there and pay them rent every month. So the more you have, the more you spend, okay? Instead of getting rid of it. I heard some of the wisest words from one of my clients the other day. I'm a home inspector by profession. And I overheard my client telling the agent, he was buying this very small house in downtown Sacramento. He says, I like buying smaller houses because it forces me to keep less stuff. And I thought, wow. I have to take a page out of this guy's book. Come to my house, it's like stuffed in the corner, and it's just a disaster. Anyway, don't come. But yeah, come. But we'll have tea outside. So more expense, and on top of more expense, there's more anxiety involved. A working man can get a good night's sleep, but the rich man has so much that he stays awake worrying, according to King Solomon. And he's apparently a very wise guy, and a very rich guy, much richer than you or I can imagine ever being. And yet he is, telling us that anxiety is the result of having a lot of stuff and a lot of things. And another thing is more conflict. More fatigue, more expenses, more anxiety. What do you get? more conflict. The number one cause of divorce in America today is financial tension. And it's not till death do us part, it's till debt do us part. So the money problems are genuine. People who long to be rich fall into temptation and are trapped by many foolish and harmful desires, according to St. Paul, that plunge them into ruin and destruction. Warren Buffett. Anyone heard of Warren Buffett? He's a pretty wealthy guy. He knows a thing or two about investing. And his number one rule is never lose the money that you've already earned. Okay, don't put that money into risky investments. Never lose that money. So you're always building on what you have. Okay? So people fall for get-rich-quick schemes when they're unsatisfied, when they want more, and they just want it now, and they're not willing to work for it. People do harmful things to other people by falling into that trap, and people take on risks that they shouldn't be taking. You know, you go to Vegas, you see all those nice tall buildings, those tall casinos. Who pays for those? Think about it. Somebody pays for those tall buildings. And that money is coming from people going there, flocking there, wanting to get something now quickly. And risking a lot in order to get that money, but it doesn't come because it stays inside those buildings. It's stacked against you. So anyway, what does this all lead to? More dissatisfaction. We think that by having more will make us more happy, more secure, more important. What's it going to take for you to be happy? The answer, just a little more. Just a little more. So, it is true though, when you buy things, it does produce a tinge of happiness, doesn't it? I mean, you go out, you buy a new car, it's like, oh, wow, this car is cool. The new car smell, you know, oh my gosh, this is awesome. But then, you know, after about a year driving this thing, it's like, oh, it's a car. Oh look, it's got a little scratch on it. Yeah. What about if I asked you, what did you get for Christmas last year? Just name me 5 things that you got for Christmas. Can you name them? Go. What? But you were so happy when you got those things. You can't remember what they were? It's true. You know, we just, things don't change. We change, things don't. And that's why we're always in this perpetual desire to upgrade things and change our drapes and change our car and, you know, change this and change that. It's just this ongoing desire to upgrade. The Constitution reads life, liberty, and the purchase of happiness, right? So anyway, I have learned the secret of being content, whether living in plenty or in want. This is according to St. Paul. So today's sermon is about what is that secret? Is it really a secret? Because it's important to remember that if you love money, then you will use people to get money. But if you love people, it's important to remember that money is a tool, okay? So making money is not evil. Making a lot of money is not evil. It really just depends on what your priorities are. Recently, my second daughter was fundraising for these kids in the Congo. And that was because there's a couple who have adopted a couple of children, and they want to help other children in the Congo to be able to get an education. But it costs money. So they're raising money for that purpose, and they're using their own money, and they're also fundraising. Now I was thinking, well, you know, with a lot of money, you have a lot of clout, you have a lot of ability to do a lot of things. And that is why religious organizations need money, because they want to do a lot of things. They want to acquire a lot of money in order to do a lot of things in this world. So making money is not a problem. How you use it, however, could either make you feel falsely secure, falsely valuable, and it could also make you a person who looks down on other people. That's why in the prayer of Agur, which we'll cover later on, it says, please, don't make me too poor, but don't make me too rich. I think that's a pretty healthy balance. But honestly, in the Living Bible, it says that it's foolish to think that wealth brings happiness. Would you like to live the rest of this year with less fatigue, less expense, less anxiety, less conflict, less dissatisfaction? Then watch out, because Christmas season is coming up. Christmas is the season of discontent. Did you know? It's the season of catalogs flying into your inbox. Catalogs are from the devil. You look through catalogs and you realize, how could I live without this thing? I woke up not knowing that I wanted this thing, and now I want it. Oh, look at that. So this kind of constant stimulation of the body's desires for more comfort, more things, more stuff, this is where it gets out of balance. And the reason those desires are so strong is because our spiritual aspect of our life is so weak. And this is something that we really need to build up in order to counter the body's overwhelming desires for more comfort, for more joy, for more physical satisfaction. So how do we learn contentment? First one is don't compare myself with others. Now, obviously, we're all living together, and naturally we are, noticing things about each other, okay? But going back to the original point I made about the fall, and one of the problems of the fall is that we don't look at each other from God's viewpoint. Look at each other from God's viewpoint. Look at each other from God's viewpoint as a precious son, as a precious daughter of God. And then, with that attitude, you can look at somebody and say, oh, that's a nice car. And you can genuinely feel happy for them. And you can ask them, hey, can I borrow your car? You don't have to acquire it. You don't have to acquire the car. You don't have to acquire a cabin in the woods just because you like to go, camping. You don't have to, acquire a jet ski just because you like jet skiing. Why not just rent it for the 2 or 3 times a year that you're ever going to use it? This whole idea of acquiring is really just out of balance. So 2 Corinthians chapter 10, it says, we do not dare classify or compare ourselves. It is not wise. So there's a story of a small group that took place inside one wealthy person's house. And the wife said to her husband as they were leaving, she said, oh my gosh, did you see that furniture? That furniture goes back to Louis XIV. And the husband says, honey, our furniture goes back to IKEA on the 15th, so don't keep up with the Joneses, because the Joneses filed for bankruptcy. Don't compare yourself to others. Everyone is different. Everyone's going through their own personal journey. Everyone's got enough struggles on their own you don't even know about. So don't compare yourself to others externally. Look upon each other as God's son, God's daughter. Appreciate what each other have. Appreciate each other's gifts. And that is the correct attitude. That is the attitude that God expected when God formulated his plan of the universe. I must learn to admire without having to acquire. Next time you see somebody with a nice pool in their backyard, you should pray this little prayer. Dear God, Thank you that I do not have their payments. Because even the pool guy that I refer business to, he doesn't have a pool. He says a pool, man, that's a hole in the ground that you keep on throwing money into. That's his own attitude, and he's the pool guy. So, what is the root of comparing? Is always insecurity. The insecurity we feel from being disconnected from God's love. And again, it goes back to that disconnect that we experienced at the time of the fall, that we're not connected with God's love. If you had a choice between having all the riches in the world or having the love of God flowing through every cell in your body, think about it. Which one would you rather have? Now, is it possible to have both? Possibly. But really, which is more important? And in order to get one, you have to focus on things unseen. In order to get the other, you focus on things that are physical. So, in the 10th commandment, it says, you shall not covet anything that belongs to your neighbor. And what does the word covet mean? It means an uncontrolled desire to acquire. In Hebrews, it means to pant after. I gotta have it. Okay, that's the Hebrews meaning of covet. And the Greek was to grasp or grab so tightly that you can't let go. So coveting today's word is materialism. Coveting after things. This is a problem that we all have to some extent. And it comes from losing that connection with God and allowing our body's desire to overwhelm our spiritual senses. So the other thing to do or have or acquire to learn contentment is to enjoy what we have. I've been to plenty of these houses where you go to the house and it's a nice big house, it's a nice big pool, lots of property, nobody home. Why? Because they're busy working to pay for it all. So, do you know that God wants you to enjoy what you have? God is not some kind of killjoy making all these rules to stop you from enjoying your life. God created taste buds, and then he gave us sugar. God created a world in color, and then he gave us eyes to be able to see sunsets and sunrises. Do you know that your dog, if you have a dog, can't see a sunset the way you can see a sunset? Do you know that? And when you look at the world through the eyes of insects, all they see is certain kind of lights, that tell them, oh, the plant is over here, the poop is over there, or whatever they're interested in, But human beings, we have a spectral vision that allows us to take in the beauty of a sunset. Why? And what is music all about? Is there any need for music? What did Darwin say about music? Well, why do we have music? Because we have a physical need for music. No, we don't have a physical need for music. Music exists to satisfy our interior spiritual, emotional sense. You can express every kind of emotion through music. And it has no practical value. It has no practical function. Except maybe if you're a pop star and you can sell. Hey, I like music. It helps me make a lot of money, so I can go out and buy a nice big pool. But you know what I mean. So, Ecclesiastes, if God gives a man wealth and prosperity, he should be grateful and enjoy what he has. It is a gift from God. So pay more attention to what you have. Open your eyes, appreciate what God has already given you. Be grateful, enjoy. Think about the things that you take for granted. Who here woke up this morning in a bed? Well, actually, I woke up on a couch. Late last night. But, you woke up with a roof over your head in a building that probably has air conditioning. And you had fresh running water. You probably have a refrigerator, which puts you in the top 5% of the world's population. You probably have a few coins rattling in your pocket, which puts you in the top, 78% of the world don't have that. So, I mean, think about how much wealth you have around you already. Think about things that you take for granted that other places in the world don't have. I was recently talking to this Ukrainian guy who went down to Mexico or Guatemala, somewhere like that, in one of these farming areas to help build houses as a service project for his church. And he was saying how he was just craving for a cold drink, but there's no ice. There was no ice. Everything is served at 80 degrees. 85 degree Coke, here. Thanks. It doesn't taste the same. Oh, you're thirsty? Here, have this 85 degree water. Oh, thanks. That's great. I'm not going to die, but it just, you know. So he realized ice. Oh. As soon as he flew into America, he's like, give me an ice cold drink. Because he realized how important ice was in his life. Think about it. I grew up in Turkey for about 10 years of my life. And when we used to visit some of these resorts, they were not developed at that time. And this is back in the 70s. And a lot of these tourist resorts, you know, the camping grounds, the toilet, oh my gosh. Just visions coming back to me. You basically go in there and it's a hole in the ground. That's it. It's a hole in the ground and you gotta squat and then you're looking around and there's no toilet paper. And I just think back and I think, I'm so grateful for toilet paper. You don't know what you got until it's gone. So we are so wealthy, we are so privileged, we are so lucky. And if you don't get that, you should do a service project in Somalia or somewhere and just go there for a few weeks, do a service project, come back, and you will love America so deeply. You will love this country, you will love your life, you will see the value of everything that you have. So fundamentally, yeah, we have physical needs, we have physical desires. Our spirit needs to be developed and strengthened. Would doubling your income double your happiness? How about doubling your connection with God? You can see where I'm going with this, right? So happiness isn't getting all you want, but enjoying all you have. There's two ways to have enough, and one is to work more or want less. But I don't have enough. Well, there's two ways. You can work more or want less. But I still don't have enough. Work more, want less. Okay? In Timothy, it's St. Paul is saying, command those who are rich in this present world not to be arrogant, nor to put their hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. This is talking to us. We are the ones who are rich in this world. Is it possible to be wealthy and not materialistic? Yes. But you have to be careful. Don't become proud of your wealth. Don't put your hope in your money. Don't rely on that as your salvation. Don't use your money to do evil things with. Use your money to do good. And remember, life is not about things. So in Luke, Jesus says, watch out and guard yourselves from every kind of greed, because your true life is not made up of the things you own, no matter how rich you may be. So maintain the right perspective about your possessions. Never judge people. Never judge your self-worth by your net worth. Your value is never related to your valuables. The greatest things in life aren't things. And here we go back to the prayer of Agur. Oh God, I ask for two things from you before I die. First, help me never tell a lie. Second, give me neither poverty nor riches. Give me just enough to satisfy my needs. For if I grow rich, I may deny you and say, who is the Lord? And if I am too poor, I may steal and thus insult your holy name. So that's, in my opinion, a healthy, balanced perspective on wealth. If you have a vision of things that you want to accomplish for God, for humanity, and it requires you to make a ton of money, then you should make a ton of money, because that will do you good, because that's what your soul is yearning for. That's the mission that your soul sees for you to do on this earth. If your mission is to raise a family, then you should make enough money to do that with. It's very important to go back to your priority. What is your central purpose in this life? What is your central reality? And that is so important to go back to again and again. Focus on what will last forever. Focus on permanent values. In Corinthians, we fix our attention not on the things that are seen, but on the things that are unseen. What can be seen lasts only for a time, but what cannot be seen lasts forever. So nothing that you see around here is going to last forever. My car out there is going to fall apart and rust. My house will get a bunch of termites and fall to the ground. I went to my doctor a few months ago for a yearly checkup, and he was very impressed. He said, "Oh yeah, you're very healthy, and you're gonna live till you're 110." And I'm like, "Oh my God, really? Oh my God, my doctor said I'm only gonna live until another 65 years." Eventually, we all pass away, Should the purpose of our life be to go out, make a pile of money, and then die? Think about it. You didn't come in here with anything. You're not going to leave with any of those things. Why are you trying to make those things? What is the point? What is your purpose? If your purpose is to make a ton of money so that you can spend the rest of your life giving it all away, then great, go out and make a ton of money. But what's the point of just making a ton of money, oh, die. That's it. Why, this is Reverend Moon's take on contentment, okay? Why are you born? To be responsible for true love. Only in true love can you find true value. Nothing else, not money, not possessions, not power, not knowledge, is of value. And this is spoken by someone who had access to a lot of wealth, a lot of money. Reverend Moon's life, for those of you who have studied it, was never like that, was not always like that. He grew up in a very humble situation. And when he started his church, he started it in a cardboard box on a hill somewhere in the south of Korea in the middle of a war. And he was talking at that time of going to America and going to the world, and the people sitting in that cardboard box hut were looking at him going, "Really?" Reverend Moon's vision was cosmic. He had a vision of reaching out to people around the world, teaching them the truth about God, helping us to connect or reconnect ourselves with God. That was his mission. His central mission in life was to help us to reconnect ourselves with the love of God. That's what he saw as his central mission. Now, in order to accomplish that mission, he had to go out, make a lot of money, start a lot of businesses, and go into all the different realms of life, from manufacturing to the arts, to the newspaper industry, to everything. So that was his purpose. But money was never something that controlled him or dominated him. It was a tool for him to accomplish God's will. Are we the same way with money? Do we have that kind of dominion over money? Are we content with what we have? Because that is really the fundamental question here. We need to find a way to connect ourselves with God, to see each other from God's viewpoint, to be able to rest assured that our value is intertwined with being the child of God. And on that foundation of being content, then we go out into the world and do whatever we feel we have to do. And we do it from the right perspective, we do it with the right attitude, and we do it with God's blessing. Thank you very much. Please join me in prayer. Our Heavenly Parents, thank you so much for our life. Thank you so much for blessing us with all these things that we have in our life. We are wanting for nothing. We have food, we have water, we have friendships and relationships, and yet still our physical cravings take us to higher and higher heights and torment us many times into wanting or thinking that we want more in our life and thinking that we have so little in our life. And yet, Heavenly Parents, we have so much. And we have you. And that is something that we really need to come back to remembering. We really need to connect ourselves with you. We need to build and strengthen and develop that fundamental relationship to grow our heart, to become people of true love, to become people who have true life and true value. And this is something that we mustn't ever forget. As our true mother said in Korea, if we are filled with the divine spirit and truth and lead a life of constant prayer and gratitude for all things, then we will be able to hear the voice of our Heavenly Parent, which will sweep through our entire being. Those are the words our true mother spoke in August this year in Korea. And this is something that we really need to remember. This is the fundamental connection that we really need to develop, and everything else will fall into place. So thank you once again for reminding us of our fundamental purpose and value, and help us to be contented with our lives so that we can move forward and build upon them. We offer this prayer with thanks and with gratitude to you. Amen and Agur.